Good afternoon and welcome to the Corporate Services Committee meeting of July 4th, 2023. It is now just past 12 o'clock, so I'd like to call the meeting to order. First of all, I'd like to do a land acknowledgement. Grimsby is situated on treaty land. This land is steeped in the rich history of the First Nations, such as the Haudenosaunee, Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. There are many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people from across Turtle Island that live and work in Niagara today. The regional municipality of Niagara Grimsby Island stands with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands in which we live. So, any disclosures of interest? Seeing none, before we go to approval of the agenda, I'm going to ask the clerk if there's anything we need to add.
Through you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Janicus, our Director of ITSI Services in Grimsby, has been added to today's agenda to provide a verbal update regarding cell service in Town Hall, and this will be done at other business.
Okay.
Thank you.
Do we need to vote on that now, or no?
Approval of the agenda.
Okay, now I would like to ask for an approval of the agenda. Councillor Howe, Mayor Jordan.
Carried.
All in favor? Carried. So, resolved that the July 4th, 2023 Corporate Services Committee meeting agenda be approved. And that's carried?
As amended.
As amended. It was not here. Okay, first item is receipt of the previous minutes. Can I get a mover and a seconder to receive the minutes? Councillor Howe, Councillor Vardy. Resolved that the Corporate Services Committee minutes of June 5th, 2023 be received. All in favor? Carried. Okay. Any discussion on that? Okay. Okay, next item are delegations, which are none. Then we have a discussion report, which is CAO report, CAO 2304, based on compensation and its job market review. Can I have a mover and a seconder to get this report on the floor for discussion? Councillor Vardy, Councillor Howe. Received that report, CO 2304, compensation job market review dated July 4, 2023 be received, and that the Corporate Services Standing Committee approve a market review be concluded for all jobs at the Town of Grimsby, including library jobs. All in favor? Carried. Any discussion on that? Questions? Debate?
Any comments or questions? Again, the report before you is requesting approval to receive a job market review for all jobs here at the town. Again, just to remind everyone, the main purpose of the market review is to ensure the town is competitive in attracting and retaining top and skilled talent to meet our human capital needs. Just a reminder also, we've completed a comprehensive compensation review in 2021 and established a new compensation framework and pay structure. So this was foundational to the organization. Again, with significant market changes and labor market changes over the last few years, it's essential that we bring this forward as a job market review. So I thank you for your endorsement on that. Also, by approving the job market review, we are demonstrating to our employees that we support a fair and competitive compensation pay structure and value and appreciate their contribution. So that's really important. And to ensure that this is objective, comprehensive, and transparent review process, we're engaging a third-party consultant to conduct this review. And the cost of this review is within the current HR budget, and no additional funds are required. So I just wanted to be clear about that. And as if you recall, in the 2023 budget book, competitive compensation was a key priority in our people's strategy. Okay, so I welcome any questions or any discussion.
Thank you.
Mayor Jordan.
Thank you, through the chair. Yeah, just to echo your concern, certainly going through in the interview process, we found that sometimes attracting candidates, we became a non-starter just because the job market had changed so much so quickly, and the fact that certain municipalities some in Niagara, some outside Niagara, just had a competitive advantage just before we even started the interview process. So narrowing the gap is certainly something, if the consultant feels that way, is certainly something that we need to do as part of our due diligence as the corporation.
Councillor Vardy?
Thank you, through you, Mr. Chair. Two questions. One, when you're looking at compensation, is it all compensation? So, sick leave, vacation leave, those kinds of things, as well as the financial compensation?
Through you, Mr. Chair, this is just for the pay structure, so this is truly the salary and wages component of the compensation.
My second question is, you say here that it'll approximately take about 6 months. Given that we have key positions to fill, is there any way to fast track this? Because right now, as the mayor said, we're not competitive salary-wise, which makes it a challenge to hire good people. So I wonder if there's any way that we can, if we do everything on the standing committee's side, is there any way to kind of fast track that a bit?
Through you, Mr. Chair, again, it's up to 6 months. We're hoping we can complete the review within a 3-month period, if not sooner. It's about collecting the data, working with the consultant, and giving them the green light to start the work.
Anyone else? No? I have a question for you, and I need to ask this, because if I don't, I'll probably get reminded at council. Are the salaries of councillors going to be included in this particular survey? Or should it be, I don't know, I forget how we did it last time around. I thought we included it last time around.
Sure, through you, Mr. Chair, my understanding the COLA was applied in the past, but if we're doing a full review of salaries for the mayor and council, that would be something that would have to be added. But I'll defer to the CEO if you'd like to make any comments on that. We do have some data we've been collecting, some initial data in that space. But if that is a motion or something you'd like to add on to this review, it's there for consideration.
I'm not suggesting I deserve a raise or anything, but I'm just wondering if it's going to, or should be included in this particular survey. Sarah, do you want to answer that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think this would be a decision of council whether that scope should be included in this review. And I think because we've done some legwork and did some benchmarking, it is possible to include.
Yeah.
Okay, can I ask if we want to amend that the report survey? Mayor Jordan.
Through you, Chair, I think it to keep council out of a review, I don't think it's fully fulsome then. I think that we should have council in there. I think it makes the most sense, especially if numbers have been already done or some work has already been done. It just makes full sense to do it all at once. I think we might have erred the side of the last time not doing it all at once, because the playing field has probably changed for councillors around Ontario since 2019, or even since 2021 for that matter.
CEO.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, I would say that council's review it hasn't been reviewed in a while, and the last time that was discussed was during COVID, right? So things have changed, the market has changed. So if council wants to include the review under this, I think I think it would make sense, and it would be up to council once the review is done to decide whether to implement or not.
So do I assume then, Mayor Jordan, that you want to make an amendment to the report? The motion. The motion, you say?
I'm quite happy to make an amendment. I think it makes sense to do our due diligence.
Councillor Howe? This is on the amendment, right?
No, just overall on the conversation.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
We've got to be really clear that this is not an ask. There's no way that it's an ask. And if we get that information, that's fine and dandy. But this council, as far as I'm concerned, is beholden to hold to the end of this term as to where we are. But it is incumbent upon this council that deal with it prior to it being offloaded onto the next council. Because the optics of, too often it happens that a new council goes in and 2 months later, there's suggestion for a raise and there's an increase, and boy, those optics suck. You know, so be very clear. It's not an ask, but it's got to be a conversation at the end of term to affect the next term of council.
I hear you. And I think that the CEO has mentioned that this would have to be approved by council anyways. So I don't think there's any harm in going through the process of looking at the council piece of it. We can decide amongst ourselves if we want to go ahead. As I said, whether I get a raise or not, it doesn't matter to me. But the thing is, I think it's only fair that we include, we're speaking on behalf of all of council, that they get included in this particular survey, and let us decide at a council meeting whether we want to move ahead with that or not. So I agree, maybe the optics may not be very good time, a few months into our tenure. Yeah, I agree. But I think that I hear an amendment to the motion, and I'd like to have can I have a seconder? Can I? Okay, Councillor Howe. A seconder is Councillor Howe. So would we read that?
To add.
Yeah, so so I'm going to add that council review to the survey that's already in place. And the motion, where's the motion there? Would you mind reading it? Thank you. The new one, the amended one.
Okay. Through you, Mr. Chair, the new motion would read that the Corporate Services Standing Committee approve a market review be conducted of all jobs at the town of Grimsby, including library jobs and including town council in this review.
All in favor? Carried. Thank you. Okay, so the next part of the agenda is in closed session. And can I get a mover and a seconder to move into closed session? Mayor Jordan? Councillor Howe? All in favor? Carried? Oh, sorry, I have to read, sorry. Okay, be resolved, the Corporate Services Committee meeting closed session under Section 239(2)D of the Municipal Act, where a closed session is held if the subject matter being considered pertains to labor relations or employee negotiations. All in favor? Carried? We now move into closed. We're now back in open session. I need a mover and a seconder to approve the closed session direction. Councillor Vardy, Councillor Howe. Yeah. Resolve that direction provided in closed session be approved. All in favor? Carried. Okay, we now move on to item 12, which is other business. I'm going to ask,
He's been,
oh, Philip's not here.
he's
Okay.
on his way. He's right here.
Welcome back, Philip. Okay, under other business, we're going to ask if our Director of ITSE give us an update on cellular services. Over to you, Philip.
Thank you, through the chair. I do have an update from direction received from Corporate Services Committee at our June meeting regarding the poor cellular service here at Town Hall. I took that direction and expanded it a bit. I did look into cellular service here at Town Hall, but also at the PKC, which, speaking to the director there, it's noted as a problem as well. And also the third layer of investigation was the cellular service in the community at large. So I'll speak to those three. First, here at Town Hall, cellular service can be improved with investment into a DAS. It's a distributed antenna system. So it's a tower that's installed on the roof of this building, pointed at both Rogers and Bell. The nearest Rogers Tower is 800 meters away to the east. You can actually see it. I stood up on Town Hall and you can see the Rogers Tower here. So that would receive the signal and enhance it. And then a bunch of wiring gets installed inside Town Hall and little antennas get mounted on the ceiling, and it repeats the signal internally. So that's how you improve it in one building. We have experience with this here at the Town of Grimsby. We installed a similar system at Fire Station 2 just before the pandemic because there was poor cellular service up on the escarpment. And a good thing that we did because the EOC, which was convened for the pandemic, benefited from that enhancement. So the town did make that investment up there. I got a quote for the same system here. It's worked very well over the last 3 years. No maintenance. It's just on. It just works. The cost here, though, the cost is significantly higher than what we did at Town Hall, than what we did at Fire Station 2. We're talking in the neighborhood of $45,000 to install it here at Town Hall. To improve the cellular service at PKC, I have a recommendation. It's not spending $45,000. To improve the service at the PKC, which the director wants to do expeditiously, is $50,000. Roughly. We'd have to get quotes, go through a proper procurement. My recommendation is the third option, is improving cell service at Town Hall, at PKC, and for the community at large. And that is by, I contacted Rogers and told them of the committee's concern. And Rogers responded with, yes, we need to improve service in Grimsby. And their ask of the town is for a cell site to build a tower. So that would improve our reception here and the community at large. And the town's issue here is not because we're not near a cell tower. 800 meters within a kilometer is not a problem. The issue is the density. There's too many people using one tower. And that tower, which is on Kerman Avenue, services all the downtown and here the West End, the western part of the community. So I spoke to the Director of Public Works and the Director of Planning, and they've identified a site that Rogers would be okay with. It's in between the two towers they have. It's right in the middle. It's further east of here, and they would build a tower which would take the load off the tower that's closest to Town Hall, improving our service and everybody in the community. I also learned from my discussions with planning that Bell is already approved to build a cellular tower in the West End on 3 Industrial Drive, which is near the car wash, near the Gateway Center there. So there's a tower going up there that will improve Bell service for the town and for the community here in the West End. And if I'm here to get endorsement from the committee to continue discussions with Rogers. There's been no negotiation, but this would look like a lease of land. The land that was identified is on Queen's Lawn Cemetery beside the Public Works shed. There's a couple issues the committee needs to know about. One is it would require a permit from the NPCA. It's on a floodplain there. Two, it does, well, there's a residential neighborhood that backs onto the cemetery, the Queen's Lawn. So there would be a cell tower in the cemetery, but, a few meters away from, 5 to 10 meters away from houses. So that's one piece of land. There was another piece of land on right-of-way identified off the highway. I believe it's regional land. That one was identified by the Director of Public Works. That's my update. I'd love discussion and direction.
Councillor Vardy?
I guess my question is, does it have to be below the escarpment? Because you're saying yes, it does, or no, it doesn't necessarily? Because I'm sitting there thinking, there's all that vacant land where the water reservoir is, and a tower there wouldn't affect anybody. And, we're not building anything else there. So maybe that would be a good location for it. I mean, I don't know if we own the land or if the region owns the land, but it is in Grimsby. And it's, I think, the highest point in Grimsby. So that would also help, I guess, our residents on the mountain getting service. Would that be viable? Because that's in the East End. It's not near anybody's house. It's not going to block anybody's view of anything. And we already have the vacant land.
Philip?
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor, for your question and your suggestion. The reason why we ended up on these 2 parcels as optimal is because they were identified by Rogers as the best place for them to put a tower. Rogers does have 2 towers in Grimsby. One is here on Kerman Avenue, and the other is in the East End, like near Bartlett. So that might be where that location may not be optimal. But they had given us a map and drawn quadrants around where they would optimally locate a tower, and that's where I turned that over to Public Works Director, and he identified these 2 pieces, one at Queen's Lawn and one in the right-of-way off of the highway, just south of the highway. So I would suggest probably not, but I can go back to Rogers and ask if...
South. Exactly.
I'd be happy to, I'm sorry I don't have it with me, but I'd be happy to provide the committee with the locations identified exactly.
Okay, but...
Exactly just near Queen's Lawn.
Oh, okay.
Sorry.
Mayor Jordan?
Thank you, Chair, through you to Philip and maybe the rest of the committee. I believe that isn't it the Baker Road lot? Isn't that the regional land?
I'm sorry, the chair, I'm sorry, I can't speak to I'm sorry, through the chair, I can't speak to that directly. I don't know, but I could identify that for the committee exactly.
And just further, I'd rather have it on the regional road allowance than in the cemetery. I think that there may be issue that if we have a site that's equally as good, we don't need to even cross that. And a third thing, the way an escarpment is, it peaks, the highest point is right at the peak of the escarpment. So as you go back from the escarpment, there's a signal shadow underneath the escarpment. And that's why none of the towers on top of the escarpment work for anything here. You're in the shadow of the, of it. And it's caused grief for my cell service over the years, and I think it's caused grief for both Rogers and Bell, and probably TELUS, because of that big piece of limestone.
So, Philip, you mentioned $45,000 if we, in your first option, and second option, $50,000 at PKC. Then you went to the third option, third or fourth option, whatever, with Rogers and/or Bell, particularly Rogers. So are there any idea of numbers around that in terms of cost, or are they just going to absorb the cost of putting the tower up and use it for other reasons as well, and we just benefit from it with no cost? Is that the way you're thinking? Because it's a good way to think.
Through the chair, thank you. Yes, this would be a lease agreement with the town that council would approve. They would be paying the town. We would negotiate. I don't want to go too far in open session, but we would be negotiating with Rogers to lease them a 4-meter by 9-meter piece of land at the appropriate location, and it would be an annual revenue.
It sounds like the best way to go. So I guess we just let you move forward and come back with a more fulsome report on all of those items. It sounds like the third option is the one to go. It doesn't cost us anything. Anyways, I'm sure you'll come back with all the options.
Yes, through you, Chair. I would like, I would recommend that the committee endorse that third option to negotiate with Rogers. I would be partnering with Planning and Public Works to, again, identify the land as directed by the committee, and then entering into negotiations. I don't have an ETA for you on that. We'd have to speak to a different arm of Rogers. We deal with them on our mobile devices, but this would be an infrastructure arm of Rogers. So I'd come back to the committee with a report and then to council for a final approval.
Okay. We need to... So Phil, we're just talking cellular service here now, right? We're just talking cellular service here at this moment. So you're going to talk about the, sorry. The internet service. Is it a separate item? Do you want to speak to it now, or? Okay. Or should we pass this first? Okay. Well, we'll do this one first.
Receive the verbal first.
Okay, we need to receive the verbal report first, so I need a mover and a seconder. Councillor Vardy and Councillor Howe.
Okay.
And all in favor? Okay, carried. Now, I'm going to read the motion here. Yeah, because you're writing, maybe you should read it.
I didn't have my glasses on. Okay. Okay, that that corporate services endorse that the negotiation between Rogers and the town of Grimsby for maximizing cellular services be supported, and that a report come back to corporate services at as early as possible. Does that work for you? And that's the motion, so.
And I need a mover and a seconder for that. Mayor Jordan, Councillor Howe. Too late. All in favor? Carried. Now, do you want to speak to the internet?
Through the chair, yes. Also, with the concern of internet service at Town Hall, ITSI does have approved budget for enhancing the infrastructure to support wireless internet here, which will not only improve internet for town staff, but also anybody visiting Town Hall. So internet throughput and not only capacity, but also throughput will be improved. These upgrades are scheduled for Town Hall this year, council approved budget, as well as the PKC, the library, all town facilities. So our Wi-Fi infrastructure is about 7 years old, and it needs replacing. We put it on the replacement plan. It was approved in the 2023 operating budget.
Any questions? None? Okay, we won't go through the process of another motion. We'll just accept the report, the update. Okay, verbal update. Okay, thank you. You'd be happy to hear we're going to our next meeting. Next corporate services meeting is scheduled for August the 8th at 12 noon. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.